What's going on YouTube? Welcome to another tackle table talk. I guess that's what we're gonna call it from now on. So basically, I usually like to fish on Wednesdays and Sundays, and it's rainy and disgusting and gross. So we're gonna be at the tackle table. And I mentioned a lot about murky water fishing because I tend to fish a lot of murky water here in Chicago, Illinois. So I figured we're gonna do a video based off of like what I use for those conditions, and we're gonna get started. So first, bait we're gonna choose is the chatterbait, and usually this is my first go-to on every time that I go fishing. And I chose black and blue and my chartreuse and white, but I do have like a green pumpkin for when the water is actually clear, and so you want kind of a little bit more natural color. But these guys are great. Take a look. I've got a silver and then a gold blade here. Creates a lot of vibration, obviously, to get attention in the murky water, which is what you want. Anything to attract the fish, let them know that they're there. And in low visibility, they can feel the vibrations with their lateral line, but also the churning and chopping of the water is a visual representation too. And the blade knocks against the jig head, makes that noise, that chattering noise. You can feel it when you reel, and that's how you know if your chatterbait's chattering. You'll feel that vibration, and you can use it from grass to open water. They work really great in grass. I'm going to shift these over to the side here and show you some trailers that I use. So again, I mentioned previous in another video, I'm a big Z-Man guy, and I've got a couple different ones here. So I've got the palmetto bug, which is more of like your beaver tail trailer. So if you take a look at that, black and blue flake, you know, just kind of match. You don't even have to match, but if you match the area there of the chatterbait that you're using, you have to match directly to the jig head. I just, for consistency, you buy black and white and chartreuse, it's basically to cover your bases, and then you've got the green pumpkin for when you want, you know, the kind of that more natural look. If you're fishing heavy cover, it's a little bit more sleek. It's got those fins though that will kind of move around like a crayfish or whatever, so you're in a good spot. And I went with Z-Man. You know, they're pretty durable. You can use them time and time again. They don't tear up like the other baits. Next one I've got here is the chatter spike, and this is kind of advertised with, you know, the Evo Elite, and it's just like a real slender tail. It's not really split tail, it's very shad shaped, and it just kind of vibrates. So if you want less of like a manic profile, these are solid. And then everyone's favorite type of craw. So these are the turbo craws. Basically, they've got the appendages that will move and vibrate in the water like a crayfish. So you can use them on your jig, your chatterbait or whatever, but I usually start with a chatterbait, and if that doesn't get me anything, I kind of move on. So I mentioned before in other videos, like kind of how to, you know, fish these chatterbaits. You can do a steady retrieve, which is totally fine. You know, you're just kind of covering water and you just want fish to be able to know that your bait is there. You can do the yo-yo retrieve where you kind of crank it, let it fall and die. And sometimes they'll kind of hit it on that pause and that strike. You know, they'll kind of follow it as it's chattering and then it dies. And then you can also fish this like a jig. So if you just lift your rod tip up and down, turn this into a jig, it doesn't have to be moving. It's, you know, super useful for that. So I would definitely recommend as a search bait, if you don't know where the fish are, you know, pick up a couple colors and you'll be good to go. All right, and then my second bait that I would probably choose would be a square bill crankbait. So I've got a whole box here of just different crankbaits, and you can kind of see various lips. And if you flip the box back over, I've got kind of various depths of like 5 to 6 feet. I've got boxes with, you know, longer, larger crankbaits. And I've got over here those Rapalas I just showed in that new video. So you can clearly see how big these lips are. You know, these are for deep diving, so they're pretty, you know, substantial in size. So I'm gonna probably put these guys in a different box, but from 5 to 6 feet up to 20, you can just kind of crank these, and it works really well. They've got a nice like wobbling action, and they'll bounce off against stuff, right? So if you're in cover and it's bouncing off against wooden stuff, it's going to create noise, vibration in the water, and the fish will be attracted to it. And obviously, you know, always match your hatch. Always find colors that kind of fit your usual fishing place. So like bluegill colors, shad colors. So I've got some pretty funky ones when the water gets really murky, kind of like this. And I've got some, you know, traditional shad colors here too. So this looks like a sexy shad. More like a tiger here, bright stuff here, and I've got some lipless crankbaits which you can use too, but something like this is like really reminiscent of the shad in my lake, and this is just an XPS from Bass Pro. So it really just depends on kind of what you're fishing for and your style of fishing. Color, you know, just kind of match the hatch. All right, next on the list, which I've hounded in previous videos about the importance of having them, spinnerbaits. And I've kind of got 3 different color variations I like to use. White is probably my most used. I've got a combination of the Colorado and the Willow here, Colorado Willow with a gold, and then a double willow, but different colors. Spinnerbaits are always going to be great. And like I said before, you can add a trailer, you can add a grub or something like that. Just awesome to work with. They'll cover water, not as much vibration as a chatterbait, but ultimately you're going to be able to just do a lot. So just really figure out, you know, kind of what you want to throw. I've got a 1/2 ounce and a 3/8 ounce size. I don't really care. The murkier the water, the bigger the spinnerbait I want. And that's usually my go-to. And spinnerbaits are pretty easy. I mean, probably the easiest bait and the first bait most people use. So the blades are going to create vibration. They're going to flash if there's sunlight, if you're kind of running them on the surface. That will be a good time to do it. In open water, they work pretty well. They look like schooling fish or schooling shad. Submerged cover, weed edges, you know, they give that flash where the fish are hiding and maybe they'll come out and strike it. And like I said before, white and chartreuse, white variations. You can even do like a black spinnerbait, which I don't have now, but if the water's really murky, that way you'll get that silhouette. And, you know, slow roll it along the weed edges, rocky banks. You know, watch out because they will get hung up sometimes, but they're more weedless than you think. Colorado blades, like I mentioned before, for maximum vibration in dirty water. So you get that vibration to the fish's lateral line, and then bump into stuff. Let it bounce off stuff like the crankbaits, and you'll get some reaction strikes. All right, number 4, we're talking big worms. So right here I've got Berkeley power bait. These are 12-inch power worms, and they've got like the curly tail here to really kind of get some flash, and black here for the silhouetting, and honestly the same thing. Vibration in the water, you can kind of run these, fish these in any sort of way you want. You can jig them like a jig, you can run them like a swim bait or a spinner bait. You know, June bug, black and blue, dark red for low visibility, and then green pumpkin for more natural colors, stuff like that. You can Texas rig them with a weight. You can go weightless. You know, if you go weightless, that fall can be a little bit more seductive. And then ribbon tail, you know, if you want to get a more complex style worm. I don't have one with me now though, but sometimes they'll ribbon all the way out and just maximum action, maximum vibration. And there's nothing more enticing to a fish than a worm. They're slender, easy to digest, and really easy meal. Number 5, box is kind of dirty, so sorry for that, but we've got our creature baits. So these are all Zoom brush hogs, and then I've got some, next bait on the list is the creature style type of bait. So it's gonna kind of compass little things here. Dirty box, but we got it here. We got a bunch of Zoom brush hogs, and then we've got the Helgramite here, which works really well for the Ned rig or just something different. It's kind of like a centipede style, but you can see here June bug, and I think this is Tequila Sunrise, and then green pumpkin. Match the hatch. If the water's murky, get something that's got a nice silhouette and kind of go from there. Green pumpkin here, so basically those are the main colors that I use, is green pumpkin, something black and dark, and you know, a June bug or something like that, some sort of variation of that, just becomes super useful. Ultimately, same thing, work them like a jig, work them like the worm, swim them through, throw them into cover, really, you know, pretty simple, and you can Texas rig them, go weightless, it doesn't matter, you know, whatever works best for you. So really that's everything here. See you in the next video. Hopefully we'll get more fishing and stuff going out when the weather gets nicer, but thanks for watching. See you in the next one.